so I've got the 1-point perspective set up there that I've used for the montage, but I just want to go back now to just a little bit more modelling, just to give you some examples of some modelling techniques, before then going further with the rendering. And really then just want to develop the techniques I showed you last week, because that was really just a bit of a basic approach to doing a montage, and I can definitely take that a bit further. But again, just want to look at some different modelling options. And so here I've got these walls that I've made with splines, and I want to have an embossed or a what's the other word? So the opposite to an emboss, engraving would be the same thing. But I'll do it emboss. So in other words, projecting from this surface, I want to make some sort of pattern that is going to project out a little bit. So to make it easier to draw that pattern that I want, I'm going to make a reference plane and then draw it behind the curve. And you can see there in the view it's giving me this warning to tell me that the reference planes are hidden in this view. So I'll go to my other copy of the ground floor plan where they're not hidden, and I'm going to just crop that view so that it's hiding the reference plane that's over here on the left, that big one. I'm just going to bring the crop region in a bit closer to the plan. So I just turned on the crop region, so hide and show crop region, that button next to the glasses. And yep, so then you can see the rectangle. You might need to zoom out to find it first time you use it. Okay, so I brought that in, just makes the view easier to work with if it's not so big. And then, well, now I'll just a couple of things about that. Okay, so you can see there is the reference plane that I just drawn, and so then I want to show you a really good trick. If you want to then draw so that you can see, or you're looking directly at that reference plane, firstly I'm just going to use Tab to select it, also Tab to highlight it. So make sure that's clear to you when you're doing more complex things. You'll have lots of objects that you need to sort between. So by pressing Tab, it'll highlight different objects, depending on where my cursor is, of course. And so once I've got the thing that I want, then you've got to remember to click to select it. So if you're still having trouble with Tab, just remember you've got to click after you've used Tab to highlight the thing you want. And so I'll call this, well, embossing plane. So that I can pick it later. That's the reason I'm giving it a name. And now the trick I want to show you is to draw a section by snapping to that reference plane. Okay, so don't be tempted to do it the other way around. I know sometimes you'll think of making the section first and then try and draw a reference plane over it, but it's actually much harder to do it that way. So it's easier to draw the reference plane first and then draw the section and snap to the reference plane, and that way you can see there I've got a view now that's perpendicular to the plane. In other words, looking directly at it. So if I go to that view, just by right-clicking while the section's selected, I can go to view, and now I know what I'm looking at. So I'm looking directly at that curved section of the wall. I'll just bring it in. Okay, so I'm going to just maybe go to realistic so that you can see it is the curved wall that I'm looking at. Don't really need to be able to see that because I'm going to be modelling behind it. That doesn't hurt. So into architecture, I've then go to component, and then I'll go to model in place, and I'll choose my category. And if you're ever not sure of the category that you need, just use generic models. I'll use here, and I'll call this embossed artwork. Okay, so then I'm going to go and make an extrusion, and you'll see now it's going to ask me to choose a work plane. So then, from the list, you can see I can choose the plane that I've just created because it's got a name. So So that's the key to modelling in different planes. By giving your reference plane a name, then you can pick it from the list.
Did you save that on a USB, or that's saved in the Revit file?
In the file. So just by giving the reference plane a name and plan, like I did, now I can choose it here from the list. So then OK, and now I can draw my shapes just like I would if I was drawing in plan, but of course now I'm drawing in section, which is similar to drawing in elevation. So we're drawing on a plane that's perpendicular to the ground. So pick that page up and flipped it 90 degrees, so it's again perpendicular to the ground plane. And so I get some sort of pattern here. I'm just making it up, but just so you can see, these are things that wouldn't be possible if I was drawing in the ground plane. So I'm just going to get some sort of random shapes, but again, all things that would need to be drawn in this section or elevation plane. And then another issue there, if you're trying to create a complex shape, it can be tempting sometimes to then add more to it. So I might want it to look something like this. But that, of course, won't work because that's not a closed shape anymore. So if I try to finish it, it'll tell me lines can't intersect each other, and again, it's because it's not closed.
So you just make one shape at a time?
Exactly, that's the key. Yeah, one shape at a time. Exactly, yeah. So I'm going to delete these lines, and then again, I've got a closed shape now, so I'll draw the other shape as a new extrusion. So I'm going to set extrusion start to 0, and then I'll make extrusion end, maybe 200. And just to make it a bit neater or nicer, I'm going to move some of these lines around before I finish it. And that might be a little bit better. Okay, so I'll finish that. And then you can see it's still not visible, which means it's not deep enough. So I can show you another little trick here. I'm going to undo. I could change the end over here to make it come out further. But instead of that, I'm going to undo and then change that end value. I'm going to make it 500. And then I'll finish it. Still not enough. Okay, so I'll go back. I know what's happening.
Is that because it's picking up the wall behind?
No, it's on this plane. The problem is it must be going backwards. Yeah, because 500 it would definitely be coming through, but you'll see when I finish it in plan, well, we can't see it because it's probably too high for this plan. Maybe in the ceiling plan, we'll see it. There it is. Okay, so it's in the ceiling plan, showing up in the ceiling plan because the ceiling plan looks at something, things that are higher. And so then it's going the wrong way. So I'll go back to my section view and I'll undo again. And it'll make sense then, you'll see why I'm undoing instead of just changing the numbers. So I'm going to make it minus 500, and it's going to go, of course, the other right way now. And the reason I did it at that level is now that so I can go back and make a new extrusion. It'll still ask me to choose a plane, and I can keep picking the same plane. But then notice it keeps the value, so I don't need to keep entering the height. So by doing it at that point where you're making the extrusion rather than after you've made it, it just means that it's set for the next time you do it. So I'll finish this one, so there's another shape, and then I can just keep making more extrusions like that. And so let's get something here that's maybe got some more curves, maybe. I don't know, just doing sort of random things. But you can do some really interesting patterns. There's lots of artists who use this sort of shape-based approach. All the early expressionists and thinking of Klee and who's the other one with a similar name? He was kind of different. But yeah, a lot of those early modernist artists, and then a lot of other art traditions use this sort of geometric approach. So you can get lots of ideas, hopefully, by looking at those people. And there, I might just show you another good little thing. Using fillet arc, then I can hopefully round off between these two curves and put in a new arc that's going to blend them. It's a bit touchy, but usually you can get most shapes to blend together using that one. maybe I'll show you on a simpler one. So.
Trim them with that one, or you
No, no,
okay.
no. So fillet arc adds in the joint. So here, if I choose these two lines, also the arc and the line, that's a much simpler one because the radius that joins them is a lot clearer.
You do that with walls as well?
Yes, yep, yep. So the reason people miss it is because it's not in the modify panel, it's a drawing tool. So to do it here, I'd need to go edit extrusion, and then there's fillet arc, and so now I can maybe round off this corner. So that's it. So now maybe actually I'll prefer it was not like that. So yeah, that's it. So okay, so you know I'd definitely go a lot further with this, but maybe for now I'll just give them different materials. And this is another good thing to think about when you're using, especially model in place. Once you've finished it, then you'll often want to go back and change the materials. So what a lot of people do at first is they'll select it, and then out of habit, go to edit type, because that's what you do for walls and floors and a lot of other things. And there's no option there to change the material. Then they'll go, okay, it's not there, so they'll look in properties. Still, no option to change the material. And it's because, if you've got that problem, it's because you're not at the right level. So you need to go to edit in place, even if there's only one extrusion in that group, you still need to do that. Then you select the thing you've made, and that's when you'll then get the material property that you can change. And it makes sense because you'll often want the different, the different things that you make to have different materials. Yeah, yeah, it's standard. Everyone at first does that. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So now I can go and find a material. Actually, maybe fabric might make sense. No. I'll get some plastic. So again, just to quickly go over making materials. I know you might have been shown you can make new materials, which is definitely a good option. Going down here, create new material. But I'm just going to do it the way that I've shown you before, by selecting material, right-clicking, and then duplicate. And we'll call it plastic. I'm going to do matte plastic for once. Matte, what am I going to do? Matte red or something. And then going to the Appearance tab. Again, remember, when you see the number there, right-click and either duplicate or replace. It's up to you. But one of those options. In this case, I'll go to Replace, and then find in the Appearance library the Plastics folder. And yeah, now watch out with the new materials. I'm actually at the moment complaining a lot to the developers of Revit about what they've done with rendering, because you'll see if you use some of these new materials, they're so technical, it becomes really difficult to do basic things with it. So here, if I double click on this one, it's plastic opaque. And I'll show you what these use. So here, it's what I want, plastic matte red. But then you see all these properties and emissivity. I mean, it's luminance, it's a glowing material, but when you see those properties and translucency as well, they can be quite difficult to work with. So if you have that problem, still you can use those materials as a starting point, and then just right-click on the Appearance tab and then go to Duplicate as Generic. And that will give you the standard properties, which can be a bit easier to work with. So I'll then just maybe fine-tune the colour a bit. Maybe I want it to be a bit brighter or a bit more saturated. Then I do want to maybe a little bit of glossiness, and I'll check the reflectivity. Just do that. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so I've got my material, and then, yeah, now, have you seen this happen where you assign a material and then suddenly it's not there? That's a bug in the program. It happens mostly with things that you make with model in place. So the trick then is to just select it, go back to assign the material again, and it will be there. you don't lose the material. It just doesn't assign it first go for some reason. Again, it's a bug in the program. So if I click OK, then now you can see it's assigned second time. So if I go to one of the others, I can assign the same material, of course, but it doesn't take long once you've got basic material set up to duplicate and make different colours. And here I'm just going to duplicate this appearance rather than replacing it because I've got the setup that I want. And I'll just get a different colour, yellow of course, and maybe more of a sort of old style yellow. There we are. And yeah, so that's coming up, and just one more material. Well, maybe let's go in the same tone and go orange. There. Okay, so I'll finish that and then show you what I really want to look at, which is how to make this now follow the curve. And what I'll even do is go and edit that wall so it's got more of a curve. So it's a bit clearer because that's nearly straight. So I'm going to just edit this spline that I've made to make that curve a bit more pronounced. And actually what I'll even do is add in a control point so that it's even more curved. Yeah, that's it. Okay, so here's my change to the wall. So now again, I want this to follow that curve. Now, you can't extrude from a curve because the basis of the extrude tool is that it's from a flat shape or a profile. Other programs will let you. So in 3ds Max, you can model a flat shape and then you can bend it. Just like in real life, you can cut something out with a soft material and then you can bend that around a curve. And that's something you should definitely think about when you're designing interiors. If you want that effect, you can specify those materials and you can tell the people who are making things to bend things. But again, Revit doesn't really have that option. So instead, what you can do, what I'm going to show you, is use a void to cut it in plan. So I've selected this, I'm going to edit in place, and then I'm going to use a void extrusion in the plan view, and I'm going to try and use pick lines and pick this curve, but just be aware when you have a spline and you pick it, here I'm going to draw some other lines so you can see what happens. Again, another limitation with Revit, these modify editing tools don't work with splines. So in other words, I can't even trim that spline. It is, it's crazy. The developers, they're just another planet. And so they put in all these other really advanced tools. There were some amazing new features they put into the last few releases of Revit, mostly for the engineers. But this is a basic thing that they should have fixed years ago, and they still haven't, and I have complained about it. But what they say is, you've got 3ds Max, go and use that to do it, and you can do whatever you want with that. But again, you wouldn't have the time to learn all these different programs at this point. So the alternative is to draw arcs. So I've deleted the spline, and instead I'm going to draw an arc. Now, if your curve that you're trying to follow is an arc, it's much simpler. But you can usually draw an arc to follow a spline, just like I'm doing there. And you might need to draw a couple of them, but you can get it to work. And it's not a bad thing in a way because that's how you build. So if you need a builder to make the things you've designed, as opposed to having it made in a factory, they need it to be arcs, not splines. Okay, so I've drawn the shape that I want in plan for my void. I'll just bring these lines on the side out a little bit more. And then I'm going to draw another line at the back connect those two lines. And now I can use trim to corner to join all of these lines together. So then I'm going to set the end to, let's say, 3000. Okay, so I'll finish that, and then you can see, now actually, it's a bit misleading. In plan, yeah, my wall is, yeah, my shape is actually going beyond the, what I could see when I was editing. So I'll go back and edit that void, and then just bring this out a bit more, and that should be fine. Okay, so I need to have more splines, and in fact there, I can just bring this one back further, that's fine, and then I'll go and edit the void. So hopefully you can see what I'm doing. I'm cutting the back of this shape so that it follows the wall. And I'll trim this. There we are. Okay, so that's the back cut off, but the more important thing to cut off is the front. But not a problem. So now I can go and make another void extrusion. And now I'm going to show you another trick. I want to follow the same shape as I've just drawn for the void at the back, but I can't see the void anymore. So I'm going to cancel it, select the void at the back, edit it, edit extrusion. And this is a really common technique. When you draw shapes, so here I've drawn these shapes, they're the magenta or the pink lines. You can select them and then copy to clipboard. And then when you're making other things that require shapes, so going back here to void forms, void extrusion again, now I can go to paste, align to current view, and it puts a copy of that shape in the new void that I'm trying to make. So does that make sense? So you can see I can then use the part that I need as the basis for this next void. So I'm going to use offset and then make that, let's say 30. So this is the amount I want the embossing to come out. And I'll show you another good trick. So with offset there, you can turn the copy option off, and instead of copying these shapes, it moves them. So there we are. So I might need to adjust that a little bit. No, I'll leave it like that. That's all right. It's not perfect, but we can fine tune it later, and it may not be noticeable. So, so then I'm just going to draw some lines to make this then be a close shape coming out to the front. So tick to finish, and now you can see it's cutting off the front of this extrusion, or all these extrusions. So in here you can see they're still there on the wall, but if I was to look at this in perspective, so camera view, that would be following the shape of the wall.
Wow, that was
Yep.
Thanks for showing.
Sure, yeah, no worries actually. Yep. So the light there is getting in the way, I'll just hide that. There we are. So, you know, it's amazing how far you can take the extrusion tool and make, probably most building elements can be made just with extrusions. But make sure you do have a look at sweeps. I might just very quickly show you an idea for a sweep, because I want to maybe put a light through here and then just do a lighting material. So this will be a really quick one. So using model in place again, this time I'll set the, no, actually I'll just make it generic models again. Might be tempting to use lighting fixtures, but you can just use generic models. And then I'm going to draw a shape, but I'll do it in my ground floor ceiling plan. So I'm going to make a sweep. And this time I want it to go on my ceiling. So I'm going to use the set button. And here, I don't really have any planes or levels that I can pick from the list. So instead, I'm going to use pick a plane. And then OK, and then I can just pick the ceiling. And then I'm drawing at that level. So now I'll draw a spline and have it with the shape that I want. So maybe I want something that sort of echoes this, but in a different, slightly different way. So maybe coming around here. Yeah, that'll do. Okay, so I've got my spline. That's my path. So here, if this happens where you see at the top it's got, the tools that you've been using, but you want the option to finish it. Oh no, sorry, I'm in placing lines. That was stupid. So forget that. It should have been a path. So I don't know why I did that. I didn't need to do that. So what I should have done was sketch path. So I'll do that now, and then I'll draw the spline. Okay, so I'll just trace the one that I made, roughly. So then I might adjust it a little bit to make it a little bit more interesting. Okay, so this is the path I want my lighting fix to follow, and just so you know what I'm trying to do, I'm just trying to make something like this one here. So then you can see it's put this plane, this red dashed line there, onto that path. So before you go to the next part with the sweep, that's the plane you need to think about for the profile. So I'll finish this now. And so to look at that profile plane, I need to go to a different view. So imagine we're looking from the front of the building towards the shop. That would be a good view to be able to see that plane. So in other words, the elevation view that I've got over on the right, looking towards the building, which should be the east elevation, will allow me to look directly at that plane, virtually. It's at an angle slightly, but it's fine to work with. So I've changed to that view. So remember, I started using sketch path, and now I'm going to go to edit profile. And if you're working on profiles and that button is greyed out, you just need to click select profile to wake it up, and then you can click edit profile. So then I'll just keep it simple and draw a circle. Below that point, because remember the plane that I picked was the ceiling, so that's the height of that point. That's my ceiling. So I'm going to just draw below that. And again, just a circle. That's it, tick to finish. And I'll finish it again before I do the material. So now that I've finished it completely and I've finished the model, I can't see it anymore because I'm in the elevation, looking from the outside of the building. So probably not a bad idea to make another section, and don't be afraid with interiors to make as many sections as you need. Actually, I've got a section there already, but again, these are just working sections for you to see inside the building. So here we are, there's the section, and I'll go to that view, and now I can see there's my sweep. And so to finish that off, to put a material on, I'll go to edit and place again, select the sweep, and there's my material property. And I'll quickly make a light material. So you can see here we've got some that are already set up. There's a lens material there, and if we go up further, you should mostly have this one already in your file, especially if you've loaded a light. It will give you this material, glass white high luminance. Often you can just use that. So if I go to the appearance tab, you can see it's got this self-illumination option. It's set fairly bright, but I can live with that, so 2500. That's the luminance. I'll keep that and see what it looks like when I render. You can adjust that, of course, if it's too bright. So I'll go and make another camera view that hopefully will pick up that light. There we are, so there's my light. And so it's a bit chunkier than the other one, but that's all right. So then I'll go and render, and to test it out, always when you're testing man-made light sources, in other words, any artificial lights, start with artificial only. Sun artificial, much harder to work with. So again, artificial only, and then just on draft, I'll go to render. Okay, so they're out, so you can see really bright. Yep. Okay, so because this is a new view, I think to adjust the exposure. That's normal. A little bit slow today, so while that's happening, I'll just make sure Photoshop's working. Here we go.
So Danny,
Yeah, sure.
so with the lights that come down from
Yeah.
the ceiling,
Yeah.
and there's that rim, the rim of the shape that you just created.
Yeah. Over here.
No, not on the ceiling.
Oh, this one.
Yeah.
The rim. What?
Is that you've just cut through the ceiling and
It's below the ceiling. So that's a tube that's just sitting underneath the ceiling.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you want recessed lighting, then you need to make a gap and then put that behind whatever you've made, essentially. Yeah. So now if I go and adjust the exposure, I can make that all brighter, and there we are. Okay, so then I'll get another, well in fact, sorry, I'll just get that view and maybe just show a little bit of camera control. So with the navigation wheel, I'm going to bring it around so that I get a view using look that will pick up the shop front. Oh yes, a good point. Yeah, so if you go to the View tab, and then under User Interface, you just need to make sure navigation bar's ticked. Yep, sure. And then also, if you click on that little down arrow, then you've got different options for the wheel. So the full navigation wheel is what I'm using. And then, yeah, it's great for cameras. It's probably essential, I think, to do a lot of things with cameras. So again, trying to bring this around so that I can see the shop front. Because last week we did montages with an exterior render, but here I want to have the background cut out. So now I'll go and render again. Maybe I'll pan this across a little bit more. And bring it around. And okay, so just a touch more. Okay, so now when I render, I'm just going to make sure that I've got that background option on transparent again. And just to save time, I'll do it on draft, but you should be rendering at least on medium. And then as you go further, increase the resolution as well. So you can just set it to printer and then 150 dpi at least. But then later you might go to 300 dpi. But also think about using the cloud to get better results for rendering. So it's still good to set it up like this. So use this local rendering program always to set up your renders. But then again, once you get to a point where you're happy with it, make sure you remember you've got rendering cloud. I won't show you it, but also I will. I'll just get it send it because it takes no time to just send it off to the cloud. Depends on the quality, but I've never had it take more than an hour, and for quick ones, 10 minutes. Oh. Yeah, of course, from anywhere. Yep, absolutely. So it's rendering in Singapore or even sometimes in America using their big supercomputers. Doesn't affect your computer at all once the job gets sent off. Yeah, so it's a really good thing to try. Yeah, sometimes I know there can be technical issues. So yeah, if it works though, it's great. And so here, all I'm doing is changing the render quality of the final, and then the image size I'll make large. That's usually fine. And that's it. Just those two options: render quality and image size. And then render. And that's it. So I'm just going to leave it going in the background. Continue in background, and then I can keep doing my work. So I'll render it again locally. So this has nothing to do with the cloud, but this is just so that I've got something to show you to take into Photoshop. Yeah, yeah. No, oh yeah, good point. So, okay, so if you want to check your progress, you just go to your login and then go to render progress, and it'll bring up a browser. And you can, once you get the address and bookmark it, you can open this on a tablet or a phone even. It's just a browsing, it's just a website. So, so it'll take a minute to open. I'll just leave that going through. Oh no, here we go. It's nearly done. Sometimes takes a minute. There we are. So, yeah. So this is the one I sent through last week. Right, so you can maybe see already how much better that is than the one that I used. That was the local one. And then the next one is the one I've just sent through. So 10 minutes or so. Usually it's a bit quicker than that. There we are. So, yeah, but just so I can keep going, I'll use the one that I've rendered locally. So I'm going to go and open, and then find the file, which I didn't even check the name of, so I'll go back to that. Oh yes, I didn't say it. So export, and it's 17. Okay, so now I can open that in Photoshop, and so again it's got a transparent background. So that means if I look at my layers, so I've got the layer there that obviously has what I've done, and a good trick there is to duplicate the layer before you make changes, and then you can always go back to the original. So I'm just going to drag this layer onto the new page button to make a copy of it, and I'll turn that copy off. And now I can make adjustments to it. Okay, so here I'll go to image and then adjustments, and I can work with things like levels and other great options you've got in Photoshop. So I just wanted to point that out, that you've got the adjustments option under image, but notice I cancelled it, because instead of doing that, I'm going to show you adjustment layers. I don't know if you've used those before. Have you worked with adjustment layers? No. Yeah. So they're a great option. So most adjustments that I do, I'll do with adjustment layers rather than going directly to adjustments. And the difference is that with adjustment layers, it keeps the original layer as it was. So you can always go back to the original. And also, you can keep adjusting the adjustments. So I'll just cancel and show you that again. So under layer, you can go to new adjustment layer and then choose the one you want. You can also, in the layers panel, go down here, you can make adjustment layers from there as well. So I've chosen levels, and so there you can see it's giving me the levels properties, and that's a great thing to try. If you haven't used levels much, it's a really powerful way of adjusting your images. So just to give you a basic idea how it works, you've got the white control at the top, black control, on the right, white on the right, black control on the left, and then grey in the middle. So it's the balance of black, grey and white that you're adjusting there. And you can see here, it gives you a good tone map to give you an idea how the image is. And that's it. So now, if I go back to my layers, you can see it's added this adjustment layer on top. But I can turn that off. It's only a subtle change, but then maybe if I want to adjust it further, you just double click on that icon there. Again, just this one, that's your adjustment layer, and take it further. Okay, and if I don't want it anymore, I can delete it or just turn the light bulb, the eye off to disable it. Okay, so then just following up on the things we were looking at last week, I can put in a background still, because I've got that transparent cutout. And so I'll go and do that. I'll just check something here. Yeah, I left my... sorry, I just want to go to wireframe and see... Sorry, there. So I've just gone to wireframe. So that I can see anything that might be in the background, but it's not that. So I thought the ground plane could be there. You can see there is something in the window. And so I'm going to, and I'm deliberately trying to make a change to show you how to update the change. So I'm going to hide this curtain wall, but not by right-clicking. I'm going to go down to the glasses and then hide element. That's like your temporary hide. And there, oh yeah, no, it is my ground surface. So there I've got my topo surface, and I don't really want that. So I'm going to go VH, view hide, and that is the same as hiding from the right-click menu. And then I can go to the glasses and then reset the temporary hide, and that's going to bring the wall back. So make sure I've got those two ways of hiding things, which are separate, and that's really useful to be able to hide things, you know, in this temporary way, and then it's easy to unhide them, but then still have other things that are hidden more permanently. So now I'll go and render again, and I won't get my ground plane. Not a terrible thing to show me where the horizon line is, which that could be a really useful thing. But so that I can put a background in, I of course want to be able to have that background showing in all of the window. But again, really what I'm trying to show you is how to bring changes across and put them back into Photoshop without setting all of it up again. So hopefully that won't take too long. It does slow down a little bit when you've got more programs open. So maybe while that's happening, there we are. So we can check the render in the cloud. So you can see it's quite different. The lighting does work differently. It's a different rendering program to the local one. But it will probably be a better quality when it's done. And you can still adjust the exposure as well with rendering cloud. So it's this button up here, the one with the plus and minus on it, to adjust exposure. So that's done. Okay, so I'll go to export and make it, have a new file name when I export. And notice you have to export PNGs or TIFFs when you have a transparency. You can't say JPEGs. JPEGs can't handle transparency here. So again, the key thing I want to show you then is how to bring that across. Probably might be simple for some of you if you've been using Photoshop a little bit, but it's really important. So I've opened up the file with my new render. I'm going to go select all, edit, copy, switch back to my other file, choose the layer that I had previously for my render, and then go to edit, paste, and that's going to overlay the new one, and then I can turn off the previous one. I probably would end up deleting those, but I'll keep them for now. And I've got my new render, but it's keeping the adjustment layer on top, and that now is affecting this new one. I probably should have done something that had a more dramatic effect. Yep, sure. Sorry? Well, we don't want to see them. Then you can see them. Yeah, because I don't want to see those layers, that's all. Yeah. Yep. And you can delete them, but again, it's often good to keep things like this because, again, knowing where the horizon line is really helpful. So just having that layer that I used previously will show me the horizon line. So it's a useful thing to have. But again, I normally wouldn't want to see that, so that's why we're turning it off. So hopefully you're starting to get used to this idea when you're working with Photoshop. It's mostly about the layers. And then, I can't remember, did I show you layer masks last week? I did. Good. Okay, great, excellent. Good. Yeah, so... Okay, maybe I'll quickly show you again. Yeah, they're great things. So I'm going to get something that I can overlay now on top of this image. So we're looking at backgrounds. And, I meant to put a background in, so I better do the background first. So I'll go and get a background. So under File, Open, and I'll find the background folder. The Material Images folder on the P drive has backgrounds. There's background and backgrounds. It's got all these backgrounds, but you'll find a lot more by searching online. But let's say I'll put it in the desert for us. And, yep. Okay, so again, there are lots of ways of moving things from one file to another, but copying and pasting, like I'm doing, does the job. So back into this file, edit, paste, and there's a background.
There was a video of how you get the background in the video of that one.
Yeah, the one I did last week, but I'll show you very quickly. It's really easy. It's just that option there in the rendering to set transparent. Yeah. Yep, sure. Yep. So then, now I'll just show you one great thing here. If I move this, or try to move the background, notice it's picking up the layer in front. Okay, even though I'm clicking on the background. And the background layer is what I had selected. So do you know why that happens? When you've got the Move tool, and it picks up things that are in front of what you're trying to pick. They're on top. Right, so they're getting in the way. It's because of this option here, Auto Select. So if you turn that off, then it won't do that. It'll stay on the layer that is selected in your Layers panel. And then now if I click and drag, notice it's going to move the background. Yeah. So that can make life a lot easier. Yeah. Otherwise you'd have to turn the layer off and it's tedious. Yep, sure.
How did you get it to say background layer?
To say...
Before you brought the background layer in.
Yeah.
How did you get it to say background? Like if you go to File, Open, New,
Yeah.
and you brought that in from...
Yeah, I opened it and then I copied this. So I went to Select and then All.
Yeah.
And then I went to Edit and then Copy.
Yeah.
So that's copied it, and then I went to my file that I want to bring it into, and then went to Edit and then Paste.
Right, and then it's automatically called it background.
No, it's called Layer 2 over here. Yeah, so I can call it background mode. So I'll do that.
That's just if you do that.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yeah. For sure. So yeah, often you'll see they will make layers for you called background, but they'll usually be locked.
That means they're locked.
Yeah, but you can unlock them. If you see the padlock, just unlock them if you want to change them.
Okay.
Yep. So, yeah, but then I can show you a really good thing here. So, remember I've got that other layer that shows us where the horizon is. So now I can use that to line the horizon from my background up with the horizon from our render. So, I want the background there to be a little bit see-through. And this is another great option with Photoshop you all should know about, using the opacity option to set the transparency of any layer. So I'm going to bring this down, and now my desert background is a bit see-through, and then I can see if I turn layer 0 copy, that's just a temporary layer that we've got that shows the horizon, and then I can go to my background and bring it up, and you can see then I can get the horizon. Okay, so then now I'll go and turn that layer off, and then bring the opacity of that background back up. Okay, so then, so then looking at things that we can bring into the foreground, I'll go and open another file. And so I've got a folder with lots of people. They're okay, but you'll find better by searching online these days. But I've also got furniture. Not much there. You'll find, again, a lot more by searching, but probably wouldn't hurt to look at some of these things. So I'll just get this domey thing. Yeah, that'll do. The grass things. But so these would be very, very difficult to model, particularly getting that grass material to render would be extremely difficult. In fact, with Revit, I would say virtually impossible. With, oh, hey, how are you? Yeah, it's much better since yesterday afternoon. Yeah, it's brilliant. Yeah, thanks. Yes, it is. Thanks. So instead of trying to render those complex materials, it's much better to do what I'm doing, use a photo, and then overlay that onto your render. And with interior decoration, you're going to have fabrics and soft furnishings that are going to be far too difficult to render, but you'll always be able to find photos of those things, and then you can use Photoshop. Yeah, that's the way to do it. So advanced rendering programs like 3ds Max can render these textures, but in Revit it's impossible, pretty much.
So for instance, then you've got your lounges in there, and then you just go and take through that picture from Revit into Photoshop and then render it with the materials. Yeah,
that's right. Or even get a photo of the lounge and then put the whole lounge in from a photo in Photoshop. Yeah, don't even try to, get a basic one maybe in Revit. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, all those soft furnishings, anything like this kind of upholstery or anything. Yeah, absolutely, it does, yeah. Well, you've got to find a photo usually that's close to the angle you want. Don't try, I know you can use a perspective tool and change it a bit, but you can only go so far with that. But, you've got the internet and you can just search for things until you find the one at the right angle. So here, when he's put in a lasso, and then this time cut out very roughly the things that I want. So it's just getting stuck a bit, but there we are. And don't worry, if you're worried about time, I'm going to finish in a minute. Okay, so just like before, edit, copy, back to my other file, edit, paste. Oh no, sorry, wrong one. Sorry, that's not it, that's the one. So edit, paste, and I can't see it. It's because it's under the layer that I've got my render on. So I'm going to then drag this up to the top, and I'm actually going to put it above the adjustment layer. So if it was under the adjustment layer, it would use that levels adjustment. If I bring it above that layer, it doesn't. Now you can make the adjustment layers work on just one layer underneath, but I'll leave it like that for now. So we'll come back to maybe more adjustment layers later. But then I can adjust this to the position I want just by dragging, and then I'll use Control-T or go to the Edit menu and choose Free Transform, and then I can scale that to the size I want, and using Shift locks the proportions. Now watch out, if you're using the new version of Photoshop, you'll see they've changed that around, and it's Shift to do it like this, to non-uniformly scale, and without Shift it works like this. They've kind of made it back to front. Anyhow, but this version it works like this. So I've got that roughly where I want it, maybe just over here and maybe a little bit smaller. Okay, so now I want to cut that out, and that's where I wanted to show you layer masks. When I'm zooming, if you're wondering how I'm zooming, I'm just using the Alt key, and then it makes the wheel work just like it does in Revit. So, to make a layer mask, you can go to the layer menu and then layer mask and then usually reveal all to start, or you've got the button over here that does the same thing. Add layer mask, and the default is again as a reveal. In other words, you can see everything. And so with layer mask, you tend to work with the brush tool, and it's set to black and white for your colours. Normally you don't want to change that. You want black and white usually for layer masks. Don't worry if you've been using other colours. When you go to a different layer, it will still have your foreground and background colour as they were. But then here you can see there's my layer mask. This is the layer with the grass things, whatever they are, seats. And then next to that is the layer mask. So again, remember on the brush tool, white is the foreground, black is the background. So I'm going to switch those around using the arrow there. So now black's the foreground, and so I'm painting with black. And as I paint with black, it takes away the things on this layer. Now a good trick there would be to use the magic wand and pick the white. And you could just clear it actually, but again, because I don't like deleting things if I don't have to, so I'll just use shift and pick up the other bit of white. Right, so remember we're on the mask, on the layer mask. So I'll go and use the paint bucket. Just pick that area, and it fills it all with black. So, okay, so that's a really good way of doing cutouts, and it's great because you can fine tune it. So here you can see there's a little bit that got left over, not a problem. I'll go to select menu and deselect so that I can just paint anywhere I like, and then go to the brush tool. Do you know the shortcut to make your brushes bigger and smaller? Remember? Square brackets, that's right. Yeah. When you right click, you of course get the full controls, but again, the square brackets on the keyboard, nice quick shortcut you use all the time, and then I can just paint right into there. But if I go too far, not a problem. I can switch back to paint with white and bring back the image, and that's the advantage of layer masks. And so there, again, you can see it didn't get the edge there, not a problem. Again, with black, I can then make my brush a bit bigger and just paint away all of that. Really easy. And you don't need to worry about making it perfect though, because again, it's non-destructive. So the entire image that I pasted in is still all there in the background.
And the little squares above the big squares that you just changed, what are they?
So the...
See, you know, you fill the squares.
Which squares?
The paint squares, the black and white paint, those ones.
Oh yeah, that's just to set black and white. That's a special button just to set it back to black and white for your foreground and background. Yeah. So there we are, and then you can see we've still got this white bit here. So again, going in, I can just sort of paint around there, and with a soft brush, I'll right click and show you the hardness is on 100, so I'll bring that down to a softer brush, then you get, of course, a soft edge, because effectively it's painting with a bit of grey. So I've got white. There you can start to see the mask, how it's working. So we've got the black part where it's taken away, and then the white is, of course, where we can see things. And then around the edges, though, of the black part, I'm painting now with a soft brush so we get a bit of grey, and that does a nice blend between the background and the foreground. And then, now, shadows can be a bit more involved. So I did want to show you quickly some options for shadows. We didn't get to this last week. So you've got, when you double click on a layer, now notice I'm double clicking on the layer, not the layer mask. Right, so that's a different thing. I don't want to do that, so I'll press, well, yeah, so let's get over there. Don't know why it made me use that option. So I'll cancel that. And so again, don't double click on the layer mask, double click on the layer to get your blends, or so your layer styles. So do many of you use drop shadows? Yeah, they work. When they work, they're great. But here, it's not really that useful. So if I bring it out so that it's clearer, oh, maybe I can get it to work. No. Right, because Photoshop at the heart is still a 2D program. So, you know, it's maybe okay for a quick thing. And for plans, when we're doing plans and sections, drop shadows are great. So when they work, you know, of course, use them. But here, it's not really doing what we need. So instead of that, I'll make another new layer, drag it under the layer with the grass things, and then I'd need to paint in my own shadows. So for that, again, you've got the good old brush tool. So if you're not using the brush tool, it is one of the #1 tools in Photoshop. On your own computers, think about getting custom brushes. There are some brilliant, you know, watercolour brushes especially, but plenty of other great brushes. But, oh yeah, it's fantastic. But here, I'm just going to stick with the regular round brush, and then I'll make it a bit bigger, and essentially I can paint in my own shadows. So I'm just going to maybe paint around here, and well, the lights, they're kind of above. And in fact, so I've gone to my, here you can see there, my original colours. I want black and white, so I'll go to there to set it back to black and white. And then I can paint in here, because the lights are not that directional, I don't really need to have shadows that you have typically that are at a certain angle. So I'm instead just going to paint in what are called ambient shadows. So these are just shadows around the connection between different objects. I'm doing it fairly roughly, just so you get the idea. Now I know this looks, probably looks terrible, and of course it does, but don't worry, because you've got the layer controls to make it look much better. So there you can see, again, just to that connection, and if you look closely at the way light works in real life, you'll see when you have surfaces that meet, you get this effect called ambient occlusion. In other words, the light is occluded or blocked as surfaces become closer together. So that's my ambient shadows. I can tidy this up, so if I go and go back to paint with white, or even here I probably would use the eraser and just clean that up a bit. Oops, sorry, that's a hard brush. So I can just maybe tidy that up a little bit. Yeah, that's better. Okay, so how do I make that look like a nice soft shadow? Oops, let's fix this a little bit here too. Remember, in the layer controls, you can change the opacity. Right, so I'll soften it right down. And then another great option is to set the mode to multiply. So those two things together work really well for shadows.
What does the multiply do?
So it basically brings the background through that layer. So where it's dark, instead of putting black on, it darkens the colour. So in this case, it's giving me a darker version of that floor colour through the layer. Yep. So now, of course, we can see the edge of this cut out, but no problem. I can go back now to the layer mask of that, you know, the layer with the receipts, and then continue using the brush tool to fine tune that. Again, just cut it out a bit more. Yeah. Okay, so then again, I can still keep fine tuning the shadows, of course, and you know, eventually it really does tie things together when you get nice ambient shadows. It still needs a bit of work, but hopefully you get the idea. Oops. Sorry, on the brush tool. And you can combine those with directional shadows as well. So here we might have a directional shadow, so for those you make another layer for your directional shadows, and then you can paint those in. You can usually just with the brush tool. So again, I'll maybe just do a bit of one here, so you might have a fairly large shadow coming out from this one. I'm just doing it fairly roughly. So I have to think a bit about how this exactly would look, but eventually you can get whatever shadows you need. And again, the opacity option and multiply work really well there, so you of course spend more time on it to make that a nice shape. And then again with I'll leave it there, with again multiply and then opacity, you can make it look like shadow. Alright, so then, so I'm going to save that file, and so now notice I'm saving it as a PSD file, a Photoshop file. So the final thing I want to show you then is that you can do your layouts in InDesign. So I'll just go and get an A3 sheet. Right, so you've got these print presets for the page sizes, set landscape. And then, okay, so how much InDesign have you done? You work with frames? Yeah, it's one of those phones, it's pretty intuitive. You can work out most things. And then, okay, so as long as you've got an understanding of frames, then you should be able to work with all the images that you need to work with. So, so you can either make the frame in advance, so here you've got the frame tool, and then you can set the area that you want your image to take up, and then make sure the frame's still selected. And if you go and choose place from the file menu, then you can, of course, place things into the frame. The Photoshop one, there we are. Okay, but of course the image is bigger than the frame. So then to scale that, I'm going to go to the Direct Selection tool, and then you can see if I click there, it's showing me the image. I'm just zooming there so you can see the whole image size, and then you can scale that to fit the frame. And that can be helpful if you need particular sizes of things and you want to get the layout set up before you know which images you want in each frame. So that works, doing it like that, and then you can of course crop things into your frame afterwards. But then another approach is to have, always just to place things directly, but it helps I think to see that the frames can be a separate thing. So now I'm going to do place again, and I'll choose the same thing, place it to the side. So then the problem is people will then come back and try to adjust it. Oops, I'm just zooming so you can see the whole thing. So then with the normal selection tool, if I try to adjust that now, it crops it. But that's, again, because it's made a frame automatically. Right, so there's always a frame there when you place an image. So do you know how to scale it so that both things... Yeah, so, okay. So there, that's right, that's just scaling the image. Right, so then, yeah. Okay, so to do them both together, yeah, double click, but that's just going to scale what's inside the frame. So it works, but that's not what we want. So we want to scale them both together. That's what I'm getting at, so that's good if you're thinking about that. Okay, so there's a couple of options. It's good to know them both. So you've got the free transform over here in InDesign. Now that one, some people don't like using it because when you choose it, it locks the selection. But it's still a good tool. So if you've got something selected, then you choose free transform, this one over here, and then it will scale everything that you've got selected together. So it's a great tool, but again, it locks the selection, so I can't go and quickly select other things and then work with them. So I've got to go then back to the selection tool and then choose something else. So another good option is to use Control. It's that easy. So hold down Control, and then when you modify with the regular selection tool, it scales both together. So it's just holding down Control. Yep, and that's right, exactly. Shift together with that keeps it in proportion.
Can you do shift and control?
Yes, yeah, Control Shift together. Yeah, that's right. That's what I do most of the time.
I've been individually going in and then going
I
back.
know. I see people do it all the time. I know. Yeah, yeah, that's right.
It's just taking me there.
Sorry?
What about right proportionally?
Oh yeah, but that's going to fit it to the frame. Yeah, so you've got to get the frame to the right size first, and then you're fitting the image to the frame. So, yeah, so this is just quicker because you're scaling them both together. Instead of doing the frame first and then fitting the image to the frame, you just scale to whatever size you want, and they both go together. So that's it. And so anyhow, I'll delete that one. And then, so as long as you've got a clear understanding that the frame and the image are separate, but you can actually work on them together. And yeah, you've got all those options to fit and things like that. I actually don't like using those options very much because what you'll find is that they, where are they under here? They're somewhere under here, fitting. But what they can often do is lock one of the directions to your frame. And that can be a bit confusing when you start moving, the frame, making it wider or making it higher, and then the image will go in one direction but not the other because you've got, fit proportionally, or it gets a bit confusing. So they work, but I prefer not to use those usually. But they work, and it's up to you if you want to use them. But then just remember what we looked at last week as well with the rendering of the plan and the other drawings. So, okay, so hopefully you're going to be doing most of the rendering of your plan drawings in Photoshop. And I'm just trying to remember to just, I thought I did show you, yes, here we are, plan section done in Photoshop. And actually, sorry, I didn't show you there was another great little thing. I know we're going a bit over time, so I'll finish in a minute. But there's a great thing you can see there when we get the right file. Must be this one. Yes, that's it. Okay, so just picking up from where we were there with this rendered plan, you might remember that this is the line work taken from Revit. But then I also had if I turn these other layers off, I had a shaded version that had the shadows. And so you might want those shadows. Now you could go through and paint over this using the method I just showed you and paint the parts that you want to have the shadows on the layer with multiply and opacity, and that would work. But I'll show you a quicker way. So, with the plan in Revit, it's really important that you have the views set up properly. And most importantly, that you have them set up on sheets. So I've got here a view set up with my plan and my section. And then I'm going to activate the view and turn I'll set the graphics to hidden line and then turn shadows on. And then I'll hide some of these things that I don't want, the section, nicely. Okay, so it's a view mostly for shadows. So now I'm going to go to print, just like before, print to PDF, Adobe PDF. Check my setup, zoom, set it to A3, make sure that was the page, and current window. Okay, so plan section shadows, and then I bet you it's going to freeze now. Of course it will, because the Adobe one is terrible. Alright, so that's why, if you can on your own computers, better to have another PDF program. But here, I'm going to use the Microsoft one, which should work. So, it's not the best, but it does work usually. There we are. Okay, so now I'm going to go and open that new file. Oh, right. Okay, so what's it doing there? This is, yeah, the Microsoft one is absolutely terrible. Current window. What's it doing? Check the setup. What's my page size? Oh, it's A1. Okay. Well, this isn't going to work. Okay, so I have to use this as a problem. So the Microsoft one is limited to A3. Then I'm going to show you lining things up precisely, but without the Adobe one, it's hard because the Microsoft one only goes up to A3. It's a real problem. And yeah, so you can see there, at least that's finished. So I'm going to close the browser, and then hopefully, if I close a few things, it might start to behave. Yep, sure. Yep. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Yes. No, the quality is actually better than if you convert it to another format. Yeah, I know a lot of people. I think it's just an old habit that a lot of graphic designers have to flatten it. Yeah, no. It's a really bad old habit because Adobe programs have been set up to link together for, over a decade now. And it works beautifully when you have that. So, yeah, I do everything like that. Yeah, oh, now look, it looks like the quality's... Oh, PNG is like a new JPEG. PNG, it's a similar format to JPEG, but it gives you more options than JPEGs do. So PNG generally is better. So it can handle things like transparency, whereas JPEGs can't. Unfortunately, this is not working, so I think what I'm going to do is close. Yes, absolutely, yeah. And I will give you... So, no, place, by place. Yeah, so use that place tool.
So you save the Photoshop as a PNG file first?
Yes, yeah. Oh, no, sorry, so what I'm saying, sorry, no, do not do that. You don't need to do that.
So how do you do it?
So you place the Photoshop file.
So you go,
Yeah.
you're in Photoshop, and you go place.
No, you're in InDesign.
You're in InDesign,
Yep.
and you say place.
So this is a Photoshop file. So I just went File, Place, and then chose the... Photoshop files are always one page. So the Photoshop file is an image. So you're placing that, so you're skipping the step of converting that Photoshop file into a PNG or a JPEG before you place it. It's actually easier to just place the Photoshop file. Yeah, that's wrong, yeah. Who told you that? Because I think we had some graphic design teachers teaching here. Yeah, and I know they were showing that, and I had to go around and tell them to stop doing that, but those teachers aren't here anymore, so I know that maybe some people are still going back to that old method. Yeah, it's a really old method. You don't need to do that anymore. And it's actually much better to just work with the Photoshop files. You'll see why in a minute if I can get this to work. But again, I'm going to close everything down, and yeah, it won't take long. And then sort of make sure I've got time to come around to everyone. Sorry. Oh yeah, so it's up to you. Whatever makes more sense for the way you're doing your layout. But if you're not sure, just place it without doing the frame first. Yeah. Yeah, and that's fine. Yep. or you can do them, do them separately. It's up to you, whatever works for your layout. Okay, so I've closed down a few programs, and now, with any luck, it will work for me when I try to make my PDF file from Revit. But no, you can still see it's hanging. So you should know about this bug. Again, this is a bug with the Adobe software. And we can't do anything about it because we're forced to use the Adobe programs in here. But one workaround is to do what I'm doing, which is to close as many programs as you can, and then open up Revit again. Try again. It's a memory issue. I never have this problem on my big computer with a lot of RAM. It's just, I mean, these are still great computers, but they just don't have quite enough RAM, and it's not really the main problem anyway. It's the Adobe software causing the problem. Okay, so here, let's try again, print, and I'm not going to change anything except the page setup. That should do it. There we go. Okay, so you can see it's going much further, and done. Good. All of that just to get a print. Yeah, and so now I'm going to open up Photoshop again and just finish off that little trick I wanted to show you. Yep. Okay, so I'll get my file with the rendering that I've done. That one. Okay, and then I'm going to open up the file that I've just made from Revit, which is another version of that plan in section with hidden line and the shadows turned on. So I don't have any of the colours there. And so essentially it's monotone or monochrome. So I've got black and white and grey, but no colours. So I'm going to select all of this, copy it. So what this is really is an introduction to using channels and what are they called, render elements in other programs. So you can have the shadows as one thing and other lighting effects, all these different things built up with different layers. So, yeah, that's right, you would have, yeah, come across it at different points. Sorry? So, yeah, I'm really done here. Yep. So here I'm going to go edit, paste, and it's put my shadows over the top of everything else. Right, it's a new layer covering everything. That's what I want. Then, multiply. Yeah, so now, because I changed that wall a little bit, that part doesn't line up. But everything you can see, everything else lines up perfectly. And so now it's great. I don't have to do my shadows separately in Photoshop. It's overlaid this layer that controls my shadows, and to adjust how strong those shadows are, I've got the opacity. And it's a great, great technique. So now maybe we'll go back to InDesign. So I'll save this file. Let's just turn the shadows off, and so you can see something else. Why is it going so slowly? Okay, so of course it's going to start to freeze. There we are. Okay, so save my file, and you'll see why I've done that in a second. So into InDesign, and I'll get my file I've just made. Okay, so let's say I want this perspective to be over here, and I'll put the plan section onto the page as well. So there's my Photoshop file. I'm just placing, so all I did was go File, Place, double click on the file, click to place it. It's very big, so I'm going to use scale. I'm not going to worry about keeping this to scale, so I'm just going to hold down Control and Shift and stretch it to fit on my page. There are options to scale things numerically, of course, but we don't need to worry about that just yet. So it's roughly the right size, and then using the same selection tool without Control or Shift. No keys held down. Then if I adjust the edges, that's changing the frame, and that is effectively cropping the view. And scale it a bit more. So again, Control and Shift to now stretch it to the size I want. I could also. It's got a frame. So you can add your own frames, but because I didn't make it in advance, it made the frame for me when I placed it. Yeah. So to finish off, last thing I want to show you then is why that approach of using Photoshop files and placing those is really powerful, because it's a linked workflow. So if I turn that layer back on, right, then I can save my Photoshop file. Yep, sure. Yeah. Yep. 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 That's what I've done. Yeah. So the flooring, that's another layer underneath the shadows. Yeah. Yeah. Yes, that's what I did last week. Yeah. Okay, so I've made this change in Photoshop, but the key there, if you make a change, you've got to save the file so InDesign knows there's been a change. So now notice in InDesign, this little exclamation comes up to tell us it's changed. So double click on that, and there's my change. Now I know you can think, well, that's low quality. All you need to do if you want to see the high quality version is right click, go to display performance, and then choose high quality display. And then you'll see it as it really is. So it's just that high quality display, yeah. So they set it to low quality by default, so it goes a bit faster. But if you're only working with a few pages, it's fine just to have it all on high quality. And that's it. So I'll just show you again, easy one to miss. So right click on any image, go to display performance, and then you can choose high quality display to see the way the image really looks. It'll always print that way, but to see it on your screen, you can use that option. So that's it. And then don't forget to do your text and annotation in InDesign as well. And that way, that should give you everything you need to do your layouts, hopefully. Sorry? Oh, no, I don't need details. Yeah. No, so, I mean, all I'm expecting for this assignment is whatever you're going to give Catherine. Yeah? Same as your studio class. Oh, you're presenting on the screen, are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
So do you want just our four-tone section and like perspective?
Oh, no, just give me the slides. That's fine if you're doing digital presentation. Yeah, I thought you might be doing boards as well. But if you're not doing boards, just give me the slides. But you can still set the slides up in InDesign, and then do you know how to make... I mean, are you doing... you presenting with a PDF or PowerPoint? If you're not sure, just do PDF. Yeah. If you get it, yeah.
Put it into presentation mode or PDF.
Oh, you're going to present from InDesign? Yeah. Oh, right. Okay. I know. But normally you'd present from a PDF. It's up to you, but if you're trying to present from InDesign on a computer where you haven't made that file, you'd have to package it and move all the fonts across, and it's a bit of work. Just use the PDF presets and go to high quality print, and that'll make a PDF file, and it doesn't matter if you've got your fonts or not.
Put that on
Yeah, and then you can submit the same thing for me. Yeah.
Okay, well, it's going to be a lot of work.
Yeah, a little bit.
All
Yeah.
the working out stuff.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's good. No, that's right. That's what I want. Yeah, I'm happy to have that. That's good. Yeah, yeah. Your process is good to see. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is a presentation subject, and presenting your process is part of it. Yeah.
So whatever we've got in our file, we'll just send to you.
Yeah, that's it. Yep. Yeah, InDesign's a great way of doing all these layouts. I know that PowerPoint is good for on-screen presentations, but you don't want to have to go and make a PowerPoint file if you've already done it in InDesign.
So you're going to want the sheets, aren't you? Is there or not?
Only what you place into your presentation. So make them from Revit as PDFs, and then place them in InDesign to make a layout with everything else together with it. Yeah, whatever you're doing for studio, it should be the same. Oh yeah, that's good. Yeah, yep. So that's it. Unless you've got any questions about any of those things. Yeah, yep.
Is that, so we need to make our floor plans and everything 1:50 say.
Yes, yes.
Bring that into InDesign
Yes.
document.
Well,
Will it ask?
normally the scale is a really important thing,
Yeah.
but because you're doing on-screen presentation on a projector, scale isn't really relevant because it's not to scale. On a projector, the size changes. It's not 1:50. Even though you can easily make it 1:50
On the
in
page,
InDesign.
you would
Yeah,
plot
if it was a
out,
printout, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, put a scale bar if you want to, but even that wouldn't hurt.
That would be
Yeah,
great.
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah.
So do we not say 1:50?
No, never. If it's an on-screen presentation, it's actually technically incorrect to specify a scale because it's not that scale. It can't be. You don't know. I mean, if I move this projector back or forward, that changes how big it is.
Yeah.
Right? Scale's not relevant when it's an on-screen presentation.
Because in the brief it does say 1:50 plans.
Oh yes, I know. Yes. So you know that's only if it's a print, board presentation.
But if we were to print this document,
Yep.
because this is basically our portfolio.
Yeah.
If we were to print it as a document, we
Yep.
would want it to scale 1:50 on that page.
Yeah. So maybe if you're doing it for print, maybe do an extra one where you can have, because 1:50 is going to be pretty big,
Yeah.
and the plan will take up the whole page.
Yes.
So you can have an extra page with a 1:50 drawing or some drawings just for printing,
Okay.
which you may not use for your screen presentation. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, but again, the page size doesn't really matter if it's on screen.
Yeah.
Then it's just whatever fits on the screen.
We have all made it.
Yeah, that's fine. Yep, that's fine.
But so just to clarify that question, to bring it in from Photoshop, it will just place in full size at the whatever we've made it 1:50. Or
Yep.
Whatever we've brought it in from Revit.
Exactly.
If we made it 1:50, it's going to go to Photoshop 1:50.
Exactly.
And then we put it in on that page, it will just come in.
Exactly,
As long as
it
we don't
will.
scale it up or down.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's what I was going to say. As long as you don't scale it. Because, well, it saves you steps. There's no need to flatten. The flattening's an old thing, so there's no need to flatten anymore. And also, it means that you can keep working on that Photoshop file.
Yeah, would that automatically update?
Yeah, and it updates. Yeah, it's so much better. So you can keep the layers. So say I decide I actually don't want the shadows. Okay, so I've turned them off. And all I've got to do is save the Photoshop file, then back into InDesign. It'll tell me that one has changed. Now, here's the warning. So you can double click on that, and the shadows go. So it's a great way of working because the thing that takes the time with design isn't the initial setup. It's the changing that takes time. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, it's just remembering to save the file so that InDesign knows the Photoshop file's changed, and then you tell it to update the link. That's it. I mean, you might need to sometimes go to the links panel under window. You can choose links to see all the things you've linked, and it'll tell you which ones have changed. That's a handy thing. But you can just do it in the frame as well. That's it. That should give you more than enough, I think, for these layouts.
We've got a lot of work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. So I'll let you do that, but I'll just finish the video there.